to begin with this evening, we'll just sit for a couple of minutes. So you can use the shamatha practice that you are most familiar with. And if you don't have familiarity with it, you can follow the breath going in and going out, noticing when your attention wanders and gently bringing your attention back to the breath. So we're actually only going to sit for a couple of minutes, but I think it's a really good way to start so that we sort of wipe clean the day, and get ready to do some Dharma study together. So we'll sit quietly for a moment. Okay, that's a short period of meditation. Thanks very much for participating in that. Always good to start with a little quiet period of sitting so that we can sort of clarify the day, because it may have been a little busy for us. And so to be able to take a breath or two it's a nice thing. It's a nice thing. So what we've been doing for the last few weeks together is we've been talking about this 8th century text, Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. And we've been looking at how he talks about the 6 perfect virtues. And part of the reason for this is because in Mahayana Buddhism, we learn the value of quiet sitting meditation for allowing the mind to come to rest and to bring the mind some peacefulness. But we also learn the role that our moment-to-moment thinking plays and how we experience the world. And being able to let go of a thought is like being able to let go of at least one moment of clinging and fixation to our own story, moment of clinging and fixation to our story, our self-concept, and so on. And when we let go of that moment of self-fixation, self-clinging, sometimes we experience openness, and sometimes we experience a sense of freedom from the sort of oppression of all of these thoughts and all of these difficult moments of emotion. And in that moment, we see a possibility to be able to change something. A lot of folks come to meditation because they need a little relief from the constant chatter of the mind. And when they do sitting meditation, they get just a little bit of freedom from that chatter. And that allows them to see that there's a different possibility for themselves. There's the possibility of being able to change actually individual thoughts and so on. And being able to do this, one can also begin to take on things that are healthy, habits that are healthy, just as we are able to let go of negative patterns and negative thoughts and emotions, we can take hold of those thoughts, feelings, and emotions that bring us more peace of mind. And that's where the teachings of the Mahayana are introduced, the teachings of love and compassion, and how allowing the love and compassion that is naturally within us to grow greater and greater. And this love and compassion helps to defeat self-clinging and fixation. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said you can't both be in a loving state of mind and a hateful state of mind at the same time. So he said this is why in the Mahayana tradition, we learn to train the mind in a loving response. We learn to train the mind to think of others. We train the mind to think of goodness and virtue. And so the 6 perfect virtues are an outgrowth of that effort. The 6 perfect virtues describe a path toward non-self-fixation. And so these 6 perfect virtues are something we can train in. These are responses and reactions we can train in. And the 6 perfect virtues are generosity and ethics, patience, diligence, meditation, and wisdom. And you can see how these lead to each other. Being generous, it's easy to be ethical. Being generous and ethical, it's easy to be patient. Being generous, ethical, and patient, it's easy to be diligent. Being generous, ethical, patient, and diligent, meditation is easy. And practicing all of these other 5 virtues, wisdom is the eventual result. And so by being able to practice these 6 virtues, we begin to overcome our own clinging and fixation and take on the benefit of all sentient beings, which is sometimes called bodhicitta. Bodhi means awakening and citta means mind. So holding the mind that wants to wake up, the mind that wants to wake up through the practice of love and compassion. And so I thought it would be fun to talk a little bit about the Way of the Bodhisattva, which was written, spontaneous poetry that was written in the 8th century by the Indian saint Shantideva. And because he talks about many of the qualities of the 6 perfect virtues in this book. I was only unfortunately able to excerpt little bits of Shantideva's teaching. So if we want to study Shantideva in depth, we will have to do so in another way at another time. So all we were able to do during these 6 meetings was to go through some general comments about the commentary that I worked from. The original text needs explanation. And so I've been relying on Pema Chodron's explanation of the Way of the Bodhisattva in her book, No Time to Lose. No Time to Lose, as you can see, is quite a thick book. The root text by comparison, not so big, but it's because the words are very compact and the explanations need to unpack the meaning of these words. And so that's why you'll see in the Tibetan tradition, so many teachers rely on commentaries because the root text requires some explanation. So I'm going to have to ask you guys for a little bit of help now, because if I remember correctly, I was not really able last time to talk too much about diligence, which was, I think, where we left off. But I wanted to see if indeed we had covered diligence or if we need to start there. Can someone help me out with that? Can anyone remember sort of where we left off?
Max or Daniel? I wasn't here. I
Okay.
think, Daniel, do you remember?
Well, I marked that we did talk some about diligence and we were on to meditative concentration.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Wendy Sue. I appreciate that. So, I'll take that as my cue, because I actually did prepare just a tiny bit on diligence. Pema Chodron, in her chapter on diligence, for those of you who want to go back and read the book later, it's on page 225 of No Time to Lose, where she starts talking about the perfection of perseverance or diligence. And at the beginning of this chapter, she talks about the overview of Shantideva's 10-chapter work. And she notes that the first 3 chapters of Shantideva present ways of connecting with the feeling of bodhicitta, the feeling of love and compassion, the feeling of putting others first and treasuring others as well as treasuring oneself. And so she says the first 3 chapters are about how we, as imperfect human beings, connect with this glorious, amazing thing called bodhicitta. And then the next 3 chapters are about how we keep bodhicitta from diminishing once we've engendered this mind that wants to awaken and started practicing love and compassion. The next 3 chapters are about how to keep the bodhicitta from diminishing. Then the next 3 after that talk about the growing of your bodhicitta and the flourishing of your bodhicitta. And so we're entering into that last section now. The 10th chapter, by the way, of Shantideva is dedication of merit, and it's really kind of beautiful all by itself. So, in this discussion of the paramita, the word para means like beyond, paramita, gone beyond is the sense of what the word paramita means, like to the other shore is the word paramita. And so the 6 perfect virtues are sometimes called the 6 paramitas, which is it's said this way because we go from being an ordinary being at the beginning of our practice of the paramitas to the other shore of Buddhahood. And in the process of doing that, we begin to become less selfish and more selfless. So in this particular chapter, Shantideva talks about the paramita of diligence, which they translate as enthusiasm. And so Pema Chodron talks about the enthusiasm or diligence as she calls it the miracle ingredient that brings eagerness and joy to everything we do, knowing that at the other end of the practice is Buddhahood. We have something to begin with. And so knowing that love and compassion can actually feed us and actually nourish us is a really powerful thing. And so this idea is that we are pretty excited to practice it. Those of you who were part of the earlier class that I did on the Great Path of Awakening know that Jamgon Khantrul said, studying love and compassion, that's easy. And he says it's entered into with enthusiasm. It's easy to practice and it's entered into with enthusiasm because, who doesn't love love? Who doesn't want more love in their life? And so that's where the enthusiasm, this miracle ingredient, comes from. And so if you remember the stories of the Buddha, when he was practicing meditation, he had to learn how to apply himself to his practice of meditation, because at first he was really, really tight, trying to do everything absolutely perfectly. And in so doing, he was not getting anywhere. And so he realized that being too loose, which is what his life was like when he was a prince before he became a spiritual seeker, that did not bring him awakening. And being really, really tight by trying to do everything absolutely perfectly was also not right. So he decided that he would actually relax his discipline just a little bit, and he was able to meditate better. And so this idea of our practice being balanced, trying to balance ourselves with what we might call enthusiasm, and this miracle ingredient. So trying to balance ourselves, not too tight, not too loose, but with enthusiasm. And in the book, No Time to Lose, Pema Chodron talks about Trungpa Rinpoche's philosophy that if we look at our life as an experiment, then we won't be afraid to try something new, which is to try to apply ourselves with diligence and yet also a little relaxation. So it's a little bit of a delicate balance, but it's something that we can try to do. And in her commentary, Pema Chodron says that that Trungpa talked often about how enthusiasm was the solution to laziness. Diligence in all of the commentaries is always talked about as the solution to not practicing. I know we all want to be meditators and we all want to get on our cushion, but sometimes it's hard to get up in the morning and it's hard to sit on the cushion when we have so many other things we want to accomplish in the day. But if we can look at our potential for Buddhahood, if we can look at the fact that we have a mind that has the capacity to wake up, we can use our enthusiasm with that knowledge to get ourselves on the cushion. It's not that we're trying to do something that is difficult. Those of you who learned the compassion meditation called Tonglen know that in Tonglen practice, you sit and do some quiet sitting for a few minutes to get the sense of the breath coming in and the breath going out. And that on the out breath, you imagine you send love to all beings. And on the in breath, you think you remove suffering from all beings. And then that suffering disappears into nothing. And then you breathe out and give goodness to beings. And then you breathe in and remove suffering from beings. And being able to do this over and over again, to be able to practice this kind of Tonglen, it's a way of bringing love and compassion into every moment. And that kind of practice can become something that we look forward to every day. We look forward to practicing love. We look forward to practicing compassion, and so on. And so in the chapters on enthusiasm, Shantideva uses both inspirations. He uses what he calls the positive pride of knowing we have Buddha nature, as opposed to the arrogance of thinking, I am better than others. Thinking, well, I have Buddha nature, therefore I have something that I can develop. I have love that I can develop. I have compassion that I can develop. On the one hand, they use that as what he calls positive pride. And on the other hand, they use the remembrance of impermanence, like I have to I have to make haste while I still have the opportunity. And so using these two things, the reminder of impermanence and the reminder of Buddha nature, this is a way of combating our laziness and getting us on the cushion. Anybody have questions about this or have stories about their own struggles with getting on the cushion to share? Oh,
I'm,
yes, sir.
yeah, well, I noticed that many times I go through these like mental gyrations of how busy I am and I don't feel like meditating. But when I do sit, it's always such a beautiful experience. And it's like but many days there's this like speed bump to get there.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. It's like that for me sometimes too, because once I actually get on the cushion, it's a little easier. But getting to the cushion is the challenge because there's so many things that pile up on the desk. And we think, oh, I want to be productive. I want to get through my to-do list. And then that is what stops me. Although I have other friends who say that needing a few more minutes of sleep gets to them. It's like it feels so good to rest, And so there are three kinds of laziness that they talk about in Buddhist text. There's the laziness of indolence, or like just resting and being addicted to sleepiness. There's the laziness of busyness, where you're so busy you can't practice. And then the last one is the laziness that is self-doubt. Like, well, I couldn't, all the great beings of the past could practice meditation, but not me. And thinking that we're not quite capable. And I think the speed bump, I think for me, is knowing that I will feel better, and I always do. I don't know if that helps you, Daniel, but that helps me. Is like knowing that I will feel better when I actually get to the cushion. For me, it's also the same with being able to go out and walk around and exercise, because it's like, it's not today. But then when I get out there, it just feels so good, and the sunshine is great, and so forth and so on. So this is why we have to remember our Bodhisattva motivation every day, right? To remember I have the potential for Buddhahood, and that helps me overcome the self-doubt part. But then the speed bump of getting over that, sometimes to remembering what I'm going to feel like on the other side. What do other people think about? Now, what sorts of things get you on the cushion? What can you share?
I have one silly thing. When I do my my meditation timer, it's like if I could get a certain amount of days in a row, I get a star. Sometimes, I hate to say, sometimes it's as simple as getting a star. I mean, I'm always glad that I get there, but it's that star. I just had to say.
I get that. You know what? Any port in a storm, right? It's like anything that really gets you moving. It's like the Bodhisattva's work, man. It's like, right? It's like the Buddha's intercession, our desire for stars, right? Asking for the Buddha's help. Thank you for that, though, because sometimes that's what it takes. Other people have something to share.
There's something, well, I tell myself it's not going to happen in that one sitting, but it's like an incremental thing. So I have to keep doing it. So I kind of like, yeah, because I always expect, oh, this is the one time is going to be the time. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. but that's the doubt side. Like, I'm not going to do it because it's not going to do anything.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
do you still get, do you
But-
still make it? Do you still make
Oh,
it to the
I
cushion?
still, most of the time I make it to the cushion. Every once in a while, I talk myself out of it, or just it's just lazy.
I understand this. I understand this because, you know, we work so hard. I mean, everybody has to work so hard to make a living, let's face it, right? And so we do feel a little tired at the end of the day, or sometimes even in the morning.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit more difficult to get on the cushion. But this is where the Bodhisattva motivation helps, because it's like all sentient beings, you know, need a little extra help, and us being able to get on the cushion, that helps them. It helps make their lives easier. So yeah. And it's a little bit of an offering too, to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
I like
And
that.
so we can kind of, it's like stars, only different. I see Charles has made a comment. He wants to know how many stars Wendy has. All right, now that's not, now let's not do that now. Come on. Yeah, but thank you for asking that question. That's Wendy Sue's business. She doesn't have to share that.
That's great.
I know
I'll
you're
send a
just,
screenshot next time I get a bunch of stars.
I'm going to try the stars.
yeah, yeah. I've got time for one more, if somebody else would like to share.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment, Lama K.
Sure.
So sometimes if I don't get on the cushion and sit in front of my shrine and do my quiet sitting meditation, I'll be like walking on the beach, let's say, or I'll be on a trail in nature. And then I'm quieting my mind. And even though I'm not sitting with my eyes closed, I'm sort of actively walking and meditating and watching my thoughts and watching my mind. And I do that a lot because I'm usually in nature a lot. That's my
Mhm.
happy place.
I really appreciate you sharing that, because I think that one of my teachers, one of my lamas once said, even if you can't get on the cushion all the time, the way he put it, he said, if Dharma is never far from your mind, you know, it's like you are never far from the Dharma. You know, if Dharma is never far from your mind, you're never far from it. And what I think he meant by that was that when we are in nature and we see the beauty and we think, because sometimes we think, to offer that beauty to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, because that was something our teachers encouraged us to do, which was to make mental offerings of the beautiful things that we see and think, I offer this beautiful sunset, or I offer this beautiful sky to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for the benefit of beings. And so we're actually doing some Dharma practice, right? And it's just like you say, when we are aware of our thought processes, being aware of our thought processes and seeing how we are thinking and how we are feeling. This is straight out of the Buddha's teaching on the 4 foundations of mindfulness, right? Because when we're walking, we're walking. When we're eating, you know, and we know what we are doing, and we are aware and watching what we are doing. And so there is some benefit in that also, right?
Mhm.
So I really appreciate you sharing that, because sometimes I find that that's what's happening with me too, is that I'm trying to just be present. Today I was cooking and making supper, and it was like I was just trying, I became aware that I needed to watch my mind while I was doing that. It's like, hey, I can like watch my mind while I'm chopping things, you know. It's anyway. I appreciate that. You know, and I still have all my fingers, which is fantastic. Any other comments before we go on?
Routine,
Yeah.
getting up in the morning and just having it be like part of the routine, unless I'm really, really terribly pressed for time. And also with diligence, meditation becomes its own reward. And it's like the end of the day, I have a reminder, daily reminder on the phone that comes on and at 2:30 and it says sit. And it's like, yeah, I want to get out of here. And this is like, the break, the end of the day, the signal that it's okay for me to take off. So.
Right. That is really cool. See, that's another thing that helps me is that, and you'll get a kick out of this. I have a routine. My morning practice is always the same. I wake up in the morning and I wash my face or whatever. And then I have like a series of prayers that I do, one after the other. And it always feels really good to get them done. And because then I know that I can get up and go about the rest of my day. And I've got my, my basic practice covered. And then I also have a second half of practice that I do later in the day. And sometimes I catch that while I'm driving. Sometimes, I'll do the mantra practice. I have a lot of mantras that I have to do. That's one of the things you bring home with you from 3-year retreat is a lot of mantras that you've promised to do, daily mantras that you promised to do. So I have a bunch of those. And so I try to make sure I get those done in the afternoon and the evening. So yeah, it's a good feeling. It's kind of like stars, only different, right? It's kind of like stars. So because it's stars, we kind of just give ourselves, ta-da, Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. You see, these, these are, to me, the sort of precious parts about diligence is diligence doesn't have to be like drudgery. There can be some joy in getting the stars, and there's can be some joy in practicing love and compassion, and there can be some joy in practicing bodhicitta. So I'm glad I went back. Thank you, Wendy Sue, for reminding me where I was. Yeah. Oh, Charles. Yes. Yeah.
I was hesitant to say anything until we got to Bruce. because
Oh, come on.
I thought that the comments were designed to really motivate us to sit. And
Yeah.
my goal has been for a long time to sit every day, but to turn practice into a 24/7 practice. So I'll give an example. Last night I got home, and usually the last part of my practice has to come after 8 o'clock, where I sit in front of the shrine, but I was too tired. And so I laid down and said, okay, I'm going to do the mantra practices and take it into sleep and keep doing it until I'm either refreshed and I can get up and practice again, or I'm just going to keep doing this until I finish that practice. That might take, normally it would, in an alert state, would only take a half hour, but taking it into sleep, I didn't finish it in my sleep until 2 o'clock in the morning. At that time, I got up and then took my shrine down and then went back to bed. But the point is, and I guess I would ask you this, Lama Kathy, I loved hearing you say about your experience with chopping food and applying mindfulness to your daily practice, because we're always in activities and we can always apply our mind to those activities that we're doing. And those are very beneficial practices, and the joy that arises naturally as a result of that is very fulfilling. So I don't know if I've helped anybody with these comments, but I think sometimes we beat up on ourselves a little too much for not being able to actually sit in front of the shrine. But that, for me, is becoming less necessary as my mindfulness, I can see it increasing in all activities through the day,
Mhm.
except maybe for certain interactions with people. And that takes effort, more effort than, you know, when I catch myself getting caught up,
Mhm.
then it takes a little effort to calm down and get back to the practices.
I hear what you're saying.
Some observations.
Yeah. Well, and I really appreciate it. And I see what you're saying, that you had considered not saying anything, and then Bruce talking about daily practice helped you to remember your own practice. So it's like, thanks, Bruce. You helped me remember my daily practice too. So I appreciate that. And yeah, and Charles, I totally understand what you mean about being able to practice mindfulness in everyday life. And we have to be like, again, it's all about balance, isn't it? The Buddhism is called the middle way, not too tight, not too loose, you know? And so if we can practice even in the midst of a busy day, this is a powerful thing. And so I really appreciate you sharing about that, because we can't, we can take joy in the practices that we can do. And then, as you say, take it into the evening, and then go to sleep thinking mantras and things like this. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, he said one time, he said, practicing right before you go to sleep is a good thing. He said, because it's said in the Buddhist teachings that sleep is a karmically neutral state. So sleep is karmically neutral. It's not good, it's not bad. So he said, so what you do before you go to sleep is important. So he said, for example, if you go to sleep and you're thinking of mantras like Om Mani Padme Hum, the compassion mantra, for example, he said, that's lovely. And he says, and if you are resting your mind in itself quietly, and, you know, and letting the mind relax quietly, he said, that's a positive thing. And he said, or if you're doing Tonglen, the sending and receiving practice as you go to sleep, he said, this is wonderful. He said, whereas he said, if you go to bed worried about something, and or worse yet, he said, holding a grudge of some kind, like, you know, I'm mad at that person for what they did, blah, blah, blah. He said, you'll actually negatively flavor your sleep. He said, you might even have a bad dream, you know, if you go to sleep thinking of anger and worry and frustration and so on. So I appreciate you giving the opportunity to talk about that. Yes, Barbara, I see you got your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Lama Coffee. I'm an amateur photographer and I take pictures more than I edit them.
Yeah.
But I found this that I took
yes.
in the early, I
see it.
It's a great photo of Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche.
Yes, it
And
is
this
indeed.
is from the original negative, and I have some prints. And I had a smaller copy of this, and I made copies at Walgreens. But this is from the original negative, so I'd like to send some of them to you and some of them to Daniel.
Lovely.
So, I have Daniel's address. I don't have your address.
Okay, I will send that over to you. I'll send that over to you, because let me make sure I have your email address. Okay.
Sure.
Because hang on just a second. I'll make sure I have that. Oops. Okay, I don't. So I'll tell you what, I will get, Daniel, do you have Barbara's email address, or Max?
Yes, Daniel has it because I get notifications of like tonight, etc.
We do,
Yeah.
we can forward it.
Okay, thank you. And so Barbara, what's going to happen is that Max will give me your email address, and then I'll send you my postal address and we can get that taken care of. That would be lovely. Now, you say you took this picture, right?
Oh, yes, I'm very proud of this picture because it doesn't show well on this camera, but it's a great picture of him.
It is a fabulous
think-
picture of him.
I
It is
think
a
that when you see it, you'll love it.
Oh, very good. Do you happen to remember when it was taken?
No, it was here in California. I'm in Georgia now. I left California 2.5 years ago, but it was in California when he came to the California KGC, and it's either the late 80s or early 90s. I think it's the 88 or 89.
Fantastic. I appreciate you you sharing that, because we have we're putting together an archive of stories about Rinpoche online. There's a website that we're putting together. I think it's www.rememberingrinpoche.org. See if I can. And then I put it in chat, and it might work straight from chat. And you can then you look at some of the photos that people have shared, and we would love to share that photo of yours on there, and any stories that you might have about what it was like to know him and meet him. That's lovely. There's an effort. There are like 3 different efforts going on. One, to collect students' personal stories about Rinpoche and how remarkable he was and how important he was in their life. And then also people's who have teachings from him and so forth, that, you know, recorded teachings that they made and so on. We're looking for all of that because we would very much like to archive some of his teachings. He was quite, you know, he was quite prolific. He taught for many, many, many years. I mean, he taught from the minute he arrived in the US until he passed away in 2019. So thank you for sharing that, Barbara. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And let me just say that if anyone wants to copy it, it's okay with me. This is from the original negative, but you can also take it to Walgreens. I have made some copies in Walgreens, but the color doesn't suit me, but it may suit everyone else. So if anyone wants to copy it, it's fine with me.
Would
Thank
you
you.
holding it up again, please? I had difficulty seeing it.
Yeah, it's a little, there's a little glare. Oh,
Is that
Because of the reflection, it's a glossy print.
there you go.
He
Who
has
is-
a wonderful smile.
It is
It's
a
one of
wonderful,
my best pictures, I think.
Oh, wow.
what a lovely picture of him. Yeah, great.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Good, everyone can have a copy.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Barbara.
you
He
so
was,
much.
yeah, he was one of those people. I was even just thinking about that today. He could make people happy just in his presence. It was interesting, really interesting. People would come into his presence and just feel happiness. And sometimes they would actually even cry. You know, it's not, you know, I mean, they would just feel some kind of internal relief. It's really, really interesting. So thanks for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, we have a little bit of time yet. And so I'm going to say a couple of things about the final 2 perfections, which are meditation and wisdom. I won't be able to talk about wisdom from the way of the Bodhisattva, because chapter 9 is actually a discussion between various schools of thought about regarding emptiness, and I don't fully understand them, so I will not be able to comment or teach about them. But safe to say that if we can come to practice meditation, and diligence helps us get there, if we persist in the practice of meditation and allow our meditation to be natural, and also to work with a teacher on our meditation to make sure that our meditation is progressing and useful and fruitful for us, if we can practice generosity and ethics, patience, diligence, then meditation becomes easier. And with proper guidance and advice, we will be able to take our shamatha practice and to use our shamatha practice to come to know not just what our thought processes are, but also what mind itself is. And the 9th chapter of the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life talks about that that nature of mind and that understanding of the nature of mind that leads to the 6th of the perfections, which is wisdom. And so being able to talk about diligence gets us on the cushion, so then we can practice meditation. And through meditation, we come to know our mind. And when we come to know our mind completely, wisdom is the result. In Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche's book, Dharma Paths, he says that once a person has accomplished Buddha wisdom, then he said the remaining 5 perfections truly become perfect. They're brought to their fruition through the practice and application of an understanding of emptiness. So, for example, if you read in Gampopa's book, The Jewel Ornament of Liberation, he says that you can practice generosity from the point of view of wisdom by recognizing, for example, there is no giver, no receiver, no object, and no action. And by thinking in these ways, one adds wisdom to the practice of generosity. And you can do the same with the practice of ethics and patience and diligence and meditation by adding in the ideas of no doer, no receiver, no object, and no action. And so I guess from our point of view as ordinary people, Buddhahood may seem to be a long way off, but if we take steps every day to continue our practice of meditation and love and compassion, then the fruition will be there for us when the time comes. And this is why these practices are so important for us. And it's so important to be diligent so that we can practice every day and have these practices bear fruit for us during this lifetime. I can't believe that the time is like almost gone for us here tonight. So I hesitate to start a new topic, but if anybody has anything that they would like to talk about regarding Shantideva, they can ask about it. But I encourage everybody to get a copy of The Way of the Bodhisattva, and at least read chapters 1, 2, and 3. And 10, 1, 2, 3, and 10 out loud to yourself sometime, because it will remind you that you have Buddha nature, and it will remind you that the potential for awakening is within us all. And chapter 10 is pretty inspiring, because you make all kinds of aspirations there for your future lifetime. I think those of you who are familiar with Ken Holmes, the gentleman who created the Samyeling Buddhist home study course, and he's a translator and so on. He was writing in his Facebook posting the other day. He said, "Yes, here I am going through my life, rehearsing and practicing for my next life. I'm getting ready for my next life now, by doing virtuous things now to ensure that I have a good life next time." And so if we can practice these things and make these aspirations, then we'll be practicing not just for this life, but for future lifetimes. I mean, who wouldn't like to have a good start in the future? So things that people would like to talk about in the remaining time we have tonight. You can
Lama
have-
K, you said something in the very beginning when you were talking about the prajna, the wisdom.
Mhm.
And I missed it. It was something very, I really loved it. I wish I could remember what it was, but it was like start with the wisdom. Like, can you repeat that?
I don't know exactly. You can go back and watch it again.
All right, I'll
'cause
watch it. Yeah.
because we did record, but it could have been that I was talking about the meaning of the word paramita, which means going to the other shore,
Okay.
going beyond.
Yeah. Okay,
So-
I'm gonna rewatch it. You're right. So you said something about the wisdom. I don't know. I'm gonna I'll rewatch it.
Okay, yes, sorry.
It's okay.
It's kind of a thing these days for me. I don't always remember what I just said.
It's okay. Me neither.
Oh, no. Oh, no, you don't think we're getting old, do you?
No, no way.
That's not possible. I don't want to put Emily on the spot, but did you
Join
have
the
any
club.
questions? Visiting for the first time?
No, nothing. I'm just no, nothing specific, no questions right now. No, but thank you.
Want to give you an opportunity since
Okay, I appreciate it.
since
Thank
you were new, you know. Okay. I'm sorry. Yes, someone, I heard another voice too.
I think I said join the club when you were talking about aging. I have a sense of humor about what I can't remember.
That's great.
It's easier that way.
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
don't hesitate to say to somebody, what was the name of that guy? You know, that today I said to someone, who was that famous golfer who had those injuries and then he had to come back? Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
So keep
So-
a sense of humor about what you can't remember.
Yeah, no, I understand. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, thank you. Well, you know, and that's kind of what we do at my house. Sometimes, you know, because my husband and I have been married for many years and we're both getting old kind of at the same rate. And so I forget stuff all the time and he forgets stuff all the time. And we're trying to train ourselves to not get mad about it, but instead say, the adventure continues. The adventure continues. And I see that there's a question in the question about the karmapa. Tell me what your question is. I'm not sure I understand the question. I'm not sure at the moment on how to reach the karmapa. I didn't see a question on that.
Sorry, Lama Kathy. That was a mistake. I answered somebody in a private chat. Somebody wanted to talk to you directly. So I'm just by accident hit reply all. So can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. So I will put them into contact with you directly so they can speak with you.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. The karmapa, I think, is still in semi-retreat. And so if people want to try to reach him, it's not an easy thing. So yeah, not an easy thing at all. In fact, I don't have a way to do that myself even. So, but if somebody wants to talk to me or ask questions and everything, definitely you can give them my email. Okay, thanks. We've got time for a couple more comments or questions. If not, I'm going to open chapter 10 at random. You know, let's see what we found out here. All right. So in chapter 10, Shantideva dedicates the merit of his having written this, and then makes all kinds of aspirations, saying, by the virtue of having written this, may good things happen in the future for me and for all beings. And so this is really lovely. It says, let no being ever suffer pain. Let them neither be ail nor languish, never doing evil. May they have no fear nor suffer insults, and may their minds be ever free from sorrow. May beings never languish in the lower realms. May pain and hardship be unknown to them. Enjoying more than godlike strength and beauty, may Buddhahood for them be swiftly gained. And again and yet again, may sentient beings make offerings to all the Buddhas, and with Buddha's unimagined bliss, may they enjoy undimmed and constant happiness. May all the Bodhisattvas now fulfill their high intention for the sake of beings, and sentient beings likewise now receive the good the Buddhas have in store for them. I like that. And then at the bottom of this verse is the one that the Dalai Lama loves so much. And now, as long as space endures, as long as there are beings to be found, may I continue likewise to remain, to drive away the sorrows of the world. Yeah, that's a lovely way to conclude our very brief and incomplete study of the 6 perfections as told by Shantideva. But I'm sure that we will have ample opportunities to read the book again and to study individual chapters. So I appreciate having had this opportunity to talk with you. And I think there's already work being done to have me do some other teachings for you. So.
Yeah, I wanted to say before we end, I wanted to thank everybody for being here, and especially Lama K for you staying up late for us and taking the time for these last couple months. It's been amazing, and we're very fortunate to have you. And I want to also make mention that if anyone would like to donate to Lama Kathy, that there is a link in the newsletter that we sent out that you can make a donation there. And we would like to invite you. I'll send you an email or a text. I think I already did, but I'll resend it to you because I know you've been busy.
Yeah.
But we would love to have you back for May and June and maybe July if you can. But we'll talk about that.
Yeah, thank you. And it's one of those things where I thought I answered, but I am having a little bit of trouble with my Gmail address. My mail client is not doing right by my Gmail address. So I have to try to find out what the problem is. So I can't always send things and I can't always receive things, and I'm not sure why. So we have to look into that a bit.
Okay.
But I do remember getting the email, and I thought I answered it, but I will double check, and we can kind of refresh that a little bit and see.
Yeah, I can WhatsApp you too.
Okay, very good. And then that reminds me, I am going to be doing a Zoom class starting in July on Wednesdays, but it's on Eastern time, so that might be inconvenient. But I'm hoping, I don't know if it'll be recorded or whatever, but KTD asked me to teach on 7-point mind training. So I'm going to do the whole book, Great Path of Awakening, in 8 weeks on Wednesday nights. And I believe it's either at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern time, which is really inconvenient for you. But maybe there'll be an opportunity for you to watch them afterwards. So I will check on that. Yeah, because has anybody taken any of the Wednesday night courses at KTD, and can they be watched after?
I haven't.
Okay.
Well, it would be wonderful to hook into that, because we could take that entire series. I'd be very enthused